Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing well. So today I have come up with one of the course for you, and this course is specifically made for the sake of plus three BA English honors students. Uh, we know that the National Education Policy (NEP) 2020 that actually proposed this particular course and keeping the aim to develop students' social, intellectual, physical, emotional, and moral capacities through a multidisciplinary education. So, this course involves studying the same topic for multiple disciplines, also known as cross disciplinary education. Okay, so let me point out the name of the course is Writing for Mass Media, and we find out there are 4 units for this particular course. Um, so we'll start the first unit, Unit 1. So the first unit, Unit 1, that introduces with some of the um, topics which is presented here, you can find out that the first uh, question it asks, what is mass media and journalistic writing? Isn't it? So, and history of journalistic writing in English in India, English for mass media, and the perspective or the prospect with Indian, with the, you can say that what the prospect of Indian English, media communication with the society, market, and government agencies. Okay, so let's have a discussion with the first question. What is that? The question it asks, what is mass media and journalistic writing? Right? So, what do you think that? What is mass? Now, you can see that mass media refers to various channels or platforms that use to communicate information to a large audience. It includes tools like newspapers, magazines, television, radio, and the internet. And if you talk about that, the goal of mass media is to what actually? Why these tools and how these tools help? Now, these tools help people to inform, educate, entertain, or persuade people, isn't it? Now, if you consider that the examples of mass media, what do we find out? We find out the first one is called as newspapers, right? So, which is generally known as a print media, or you can say that sometimes we also go for the online publication that deliver daily news. Right. Let's take the example. You can say the Times of India, the New York Times, the New Indian Express, the Economic Times, or you say the Statement, or you can say that first post. Even in online, you also find out Mint, right? Academia, Mint, Eon. So all such kind of you can say print or online publication that deliver daily news. Second is called as a television. When I talk about television, in television you find out many channels or several channels are there that broadcast news, isn't it? And not only they broadcast news, they also um, provide entertainment or educational programs, right? So you can take the example of National Geographic Channel, BBC News, or you take the entertainment for the children called as a Cartoon Network, or you talk about means Sony Max. So these are nothing but called as a Republic, India Today, you can name many of the channels that broadcast not only news and education, so that also provide entertainment. Then the third one, which we find out, it's called as a social media now, which is popular in the present day, or you can say in the 21st century, where you will find out that the platforms. for sharing and discussing information online. It has a good means good impact on the society, at the same time bad impact. But we find out that these mass media, right? When you talk about newspapers, television, and social media, what they do, they do nothing but what? Communicate information to a large audience, isn't it? So, social media like Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, which is now considered X, Instagram, LinkedIn, for the job profile. So, various social media platforms are there which are helping the people, or you can say that a large number of audience, to give them fact and also verified information, isn't it? So then you talk about the next question: what is journalistic writing again? Now, when I talk about journalistic writing, I find out that journalistic writing is a style of writing that used to present newspaper, that used to present what news, or means they create news, and also they means find out the news and present the news, and sharing the information clearly, concisely, and accurately. It follows. So journalistic writing that follows with what? Means of five W's and one H. What are they? That called as a who, what, when, where, why, and how. To provide complete information, right or no? These are the questions they generally use, right? So, and this style is a factual, and they avoid personal opinions unless in editorials. It means called as editorials are nothing but somehow called as a opinion based, right? Argumentative based. So in that case, but if you talk about mm, other news or other information, they are factual, isn't it? So we find out there are different types of journalistic writing, like you can say news articles, you can say that feature articles, or you talk about editorial articles. When I say news articles, so what we find out, news articles generally reports current events, right? Like you can say that example of a news piece about a natural disaster, or you talk about any kind of a mishap, or you talk about any kind of a event. Um, Even you also talk about tsunami, the earthquake, all such kind of a things, or war related, right? News articles. So they are known as a news articles. They report current events. Then the second one, when we talk about featured articles. So featured article generally introduced with the in-depth stories, about topics or people, right? And they generally, you would find out what means, uh, provide the stories which are nothing but crime based, right? Or you talk about any kind of what you can say that, any kind of a story which is kidnapping, all such kind of a crime related. Now, if I talk about an example, let's say that an example, a feature on a famous athlete's life, right? Famous athlete's life, isn't it? So, likewise, editorials. We also talk about editorials, which are opinion based or argumentative based articles, which are written by the editor, and they present the example like what you can say, a piece discussing the impact of climate change, isn't it? Or you may say that any of the person who make any kind of opinion in which they share their disagreement or agreement. So such kind of information can be known as the editorials. Okay, so let's move to the next one. So we understood that means what is means writing in the mass media. We find out means what do you mean by mass media, and what do you mean by journalistic writing, and how they means how they influence people, as well as means the examples which are also discussed. Now, let's move to the next one that called as a history of journalistic writing in English in India. Now, understand that when we talk about history of journalistic writing in English in India, it means it takes us towards the colonial era, role in freedom movement, and post-independence growth, isn't it? So when we talk about means colonial era, what we can find out, journalistic writing in English that began in India during British rule, right? So and like you can say that early newspapers like the Bengal Gazette, which uh, which was published in the year of 1780, and that were aimed at the British population in India, isn't it? So by the 19th century, we find out Indian began using English newspapers to discuss what social, political, and reformal issues, or you can say that reformist issues, right? The second, which we talk about, is called as a role in freedom movement, right? And when we talk about role in freedom movement, we find out prominent leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi. They used, journalism to inspire and mobilize or gather the masses, right? So newspapers like the Hindu, Amrita Bazaar, Patrika, and Young India, they played a significant or an important role in the struggle for independence, isn't it? Then we talk about the third one, which is called as the post-independence growth. In post-independence growth, you find out English journalism in India that grow rapidly after independence, right? And focusing on what? Focusing on development, nation building, and global perspectives, right? The rise of digital media that further, you can say that expanded journalistic writing in English, right? So in that case, we find out when we say history of journalistic writing in English in India, we find out means the colonial era to rolling freedom movement and then after independence growth, right? How it matters the most. Okay, so yeah, now let's come to the next one that called as English for mass media. When I say that English for mass media, we understand that what English is a key language in mass media because it is widely understood and used for global communication in the context of mass media. You find out that it is known as the international official language. So therefore, in India, uh, it becomes a kind of a compulsion in offices or you find out colleges, educational institutions, right, where people from the different regions they amalgamate in one particular place. They cannot communicate with their native language, so they use the one of the languages called as either English or Hindi, right? So and at the same time you also find out that some of the regions where Hindi is not even comfortable language to be spoken, so therefore English is considered as the common, right? And English is used to write, broadcast, and present information in a way that is professional, clear, and engaging, isn't it? Now, if I say that importance of English in mass media, we find out three of the areas: global reach, professional standards, and precision and clarity, right? Global reach. So when we talk about global reach, we find out English is a universal language and making content accessible to a larger audience, like I pointed. Second, it's called the professional standards. Most international publications, TV channels, and websites, they use English as their primary medium of communication to the means reader or called as a to the audience, isn't it? Then we also find out that importance of English in mass media. So that the English is a kind of a language which is which helps that express messages efficiently using a what rich vocabulary and also clear grammar structures. So therefore, we find out the precision and clarity present in it. So the importance of English in mass media is called to global reach. It it is considered as a universal language, international language, and it frequently accessible to the audience. Professional standard, most international publications, so you can talk about TV channels and websites and internet, educational institutions, offices, so they use it. Then it has a clarity and precision that effectively using a rich vocabulary and grammatical structures. Right? Then we move towards features of English in mass media. We find out there are four features that we find out in this. One is called as a conciseness. When I say conciseness, so in which information is presented in a short, to the point manner. Right. Let's say that if I give you an example, you can say that heavy rains disrupt traffic in Mumbai. Right. So that's something called as a conciseness, short. Uh, Clarity, even small information can elaborate a lot of things in a very clearly. Like you can say simple words or sentences that are used to easy understanding, right? Now, let's take the example. If I say that the new policy will help students get scholarship easily, isn't it? So the third, which is also known as an engaging tone. When we talk about engaging tone, we talk about language, how it is likely to capture the audience attention, right? So, if I say that what a kind of example, discover the secrets behind the world's most luxurious resort, right? Discover the secrets behind the world's most luxurious research. So that's nothing but a kind of an engaging tone where means people get attracted and they get attention, isn't it? Then the fourth one, which is known as a formal or semi-formal language. So it depends. It depending on the type of media, English can be called as a formal, right? Like newspapers or semi-formal social media. So you can believe on it on the basis of means, their uses and we also sometimes find out like people used to give us some kind of advice to use this media, use this newspaper or watch this news channel because they provide with nothing but a uh, perfect English and having with the rich vocabulary and the you can say that uh, perfect grammar structure, isn't it? So, coming to the next one is indicating about common examples of English in mass media. So, when we talk about the common examples of English in mass media, so where we find out well, headlines, social media posts, TV news reporting, advertising. These are nothing but the common example of English in mass media. We find out headlines in the newspaper, headlines in the news channels, mm, headlines in means, internet sites also. Like gave you the example um, in the Mint, right? Or Academia or called the Javion. So headlines are given, The Economist, The Guardian. So such kind of an internet publication newspapers are also there. So and you find out some of the news headlines like you can say the stock market hits record high, right? Stock market hits record high. Or you talk about sometime in the newspaper, it is written breaking news. So storm warning issued in Florida, right? Storm warning issued in Florida. So such kind of a headlines which are clearly nothing but means, written in a very short, conciseness and clarity present in it. And it also allows the uh, reader or means people to means see more and try to read more. Then the second one is called as a social media post. When we talk about social media post, it means where also you find out like the join us live at 6 p.m. for an exclusive with the Prime Minister. So such kind of a social media post you would find out given in the different sites. Even trending now, the Oscars 2024 highlights, or you find out G Cine Arts, right? So Then we talk about the next, which is called as a TV news reporting. When I say TV news reporting, sometimes you also find out the kind of a example you would find out. The fire broke out late at night, leaving dozens homeless. Right. So at the same time, in advertising also, you would find out that maybe Reliance or Big Bazaar or maybe called as a V-Mart, or you find out some of the branded company or even Adani. So they provide their advertisement through the through the television and through the newspaper that actually make the people aware about the product and understand the usefulness of that product and the price of that product. Like sometime also it is written, grab your favorite gadgets at unbeatable prices this weekend. So which is given with the Reliance Digital, Reliance Digital. So that indicates nothing but the kind of advertising. And you can see that the kind of picture which is provided here, right? So one is the advertisement, and advertisement for the what means product. You would also find out social media. You also find out a kind of an incident or the fire broke out late at night, leaving dozens homeless. So TV news reporting, and at the same time, we find out also headlines given in the TV news channels and social media posts. Right. Coming to the next one. Okay. Okay. The next one, which we are going to discuss, is called as the prospect of Indian English. When I say that the prospect of Indian English refers to the variety of English spoken and written in India. It is shaped by the country's cultural, linguistic, and historical historical influences that mixes nothing but the English with local languages and tradition. Over time, Indian English has become an important aspect of the country's identity both domestically and internationally. Right. So in that case, we know that means like our native mother tongue language, we also take English as a foreign language, and in India, it is spoken and written, right? And it is also matters the most means in the country's cultural, linguistic, and historical influences, right? Because we believe that the kind of a language is taken from means from the past, right? From the past, like during the British era or colonial era. So it mixes with the local languages and traditions. And over time, you would find out it has become an Indian English has become an important aspects of the country's identity, right? So not only in the nation, but also internationally. The key aspects of Indian English are nothing but a lexical influence, pronunciation, grammar, and code switching. Let's look at that. The first one, which is called as a lexical influence. When I say that lexical influence, it means many words in Indian English that are derived from what? You can say that Indian languages, right or not? You can take the name of Manoj Das, the greatest writer of Minzo, who passed away several years ago. And you also find out some of the other Indian authors, right? So their noteworthy writing specifically means uh, put a or footprint, right? Where they use some kind of a language, like you can say that Manoj Das, when he presented any kind of a story where he used to mention that Gamcha, right, which is a Odia language. At the same time, when some of the authors also used to mention Bindas, right, which is a Hindi language, even the kind of a word which is not presented with the correct English, but considered as the Indian English, like prepone, or you say patiala or dabbawala, isn't it? So these words that add uniqueness or means the quality which is presented to the or introduced to the language spoken in India, right? Let's say that if I want to make a kind of a statement like in offices, we find out some people used to say, I need to prepone my meeting. I need to prepone my meeting. Now, in Indian English, it means to what? Indian English meaning to reschedule to an earlier time, right? But what did they use? Instead of saying reschedule, right, you say that a prepone, right? Similar to that, when you talk about pronunciation, Indian English has its own accent and pronunciation, which may vary or change depending on the region, right? Um, for example, the pronunciation of words like schedule, right? Say due, schedule, often pronounced often pronounced as what? Schedule, right? Schedule rather than schedule. So it reflects nothing but an Indian English. So when you say that schedule, right? A schedule, S-K-E-D, schedule, J-O-O-L, and rather than set Jule, that's called as S-H-E-D, Y-O-O-L. So that refers nothing but the Indian English, isn't it? Or reflects Indian English. Similar to that, when we talk about grammar, we also find out Indian English often adopts structures influenced by local languages. For instances, the use of the present continuous tense used instead of the simple present is common in Indian English, right? Example, like you can say, I'm going to the market instead of I go to the market, or I'm going to market, or I go to market, isn't it? So that you would find out. Then the last one, which is called as a code switching. In code switching, we generally find out many speakers uh, they mix English with the regional languages, right? Such as Hindi, Tamil, Odia, Bengali, etc., which is also known as a MTI, mother tongue influence, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, depending on the what, depending on the context. And this is called as the code switching, and it reflects what India's multilingual society, right? So, like, let's say that I just give an example of Bindas or called as a Patiala or Dababala. So, or Gamcha. So you can say that she's very bindas about everything, right? Now, bindas is a Hindi word meaning carefree or careless or bored, isn't it? Now, that clearly indicates nothing but an example of what? Example of code switching, right? And clearly reflecting nothing but a Indian English, isn't it? Let's come to the another part of it. Yeah. So the role of Indian English in the global context, right? So the role of Indian English in the global context. So and generally we find out that what means three different types of role of Indian English in the global context is one is called as a language of communication, second one is called as a cultural impact, and third one is called as a media and entertainment, right? Media and entertainment. If I talk about the first one, which is a stated language of communication, so we find out that English is the medium of instruction in schools and colleges, in many Indian schools, colleges, and universities. It is also the official languages for business and you can say that governance in India. And this has made Indian English an important player or key player in the global communication network, especially in the sectors like IT, information technology, business outsourcing, and media, right? Then the second one is called as a cultural impact. So when we say that a cultural impact, Indian English literature, right? So including you can say that works by authors like R.K. Narayan, Arundhati Roy, and Chetan Bhagat. They have gained nothing but international recognition. So the rise of Indian authors writing in English has brought on unique perspective to world literature, right? Then third, which is called as a media and entertainment, and we also find out Indian English is widely used in the media, both in uh, news outlet and entertainment. English language newspapers like the Times of India and the Hindu are some of the largest English dailies in the world. Bollywood, India's massive film industry, also uses English in dialogue and song lyrics, right? Often mixing what Hindi and English, um, ITY and English, ITY and tradition. So it's nothing but a kind of a DT and tradition, right? So that's what you would find out role of Indian English um, in the global context. Okay. So coming to the another part of it that called as a future. Now, when you talk about how Indian English is used, at the same time, what the future goal of Indian English. And when we talk about future prospect of Indian English, definitely it's praiseworthy and also positive in context. Like it grows in trends, it is standardization and evolution, youth and digital media, right? And growing influence, the first one, which is stated about what as India's economy continues to grow, the influence of Indian English on the global stage will possibly increase. It is expected to become what? It is expected to become a more prominent language in international business. Not only in international business, science and technology. Right. Similar to that, standardization and evolution, while Indian English is not a uniform language, its uniqueness is being recognized and identified. There may be, you can say that efforts to standardize you can say that a certain aspect of it, making it more widely accepted in you can say formal context, including international diplomacy and business, right? Then the third one, which we call it as the youth and digital media, the younger generation in India is increasingly using English in everyday communication, especially in you can say that digital spaces, social media platforms, online content, and mobile applications. They all are, or they are all contributing to the growth of Indian English, making it more dynamic and flexible, right? So yes. So in this way, we can see that the future prospect of Indian English is something which is known as a positive in nature. So now, but at the same time, we also find out some challenges are also found out. What are they? Now, the first one is called as a language purism. When we say that language purism, it indicates about some purists criticize whom Indian English. Why? For deviating from standard English. And they show the fear that it might lead to a loss of linguistic accuracy or depth, right? At the same time, if I talk about regional variation, right? Regional variation, the vast diversity of languages in India means that Indian English that differs or varies significantly from one region to another. This can sometimes create confusion, especially in formal context, right? Then we find out the next one, which is called as a conclusion. In conclusion, we find out that the prospect of Indian English is, like I pointed, is bright with increasingly influence in global communication, business, and culture. It's continued, you can say that, evolution alongside India's growing economic and cultural prominence, and that suggests what? That suggests that Indian English will play an even more important role in the coming years. and it reflects not only the linguistic diversity of India, but also the country's unique blend of model, isn't it? Okay. 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 So the next part is called as a media communication with the society. So the next part, which is known as a media communication with the society, market, and government agencies. So if you talk about that, media plays a crucial role in bridging, right? Bridging communication. So connecting communication between various segments of society. Um, you can say that. Businesses, market, and government agencies through mass media channels such as you can say, like I pointed, newspapers, television, radio, and the digital platforms. It makes sure the flow of information, shaping opinions, policies, and behaviors are run properly, isn't it? That's what you would find out. But at the same time, when we talk about media, communication with the society, how it communicates, we find out the ways media serves as the voice of society, isn't it? How it communicates, it and why it communicates, and means you can say that what does it communicate. So you can say that media, uh, you would find out media serves as the voice of society and reflecting. Reflecting what? Reflecting public concern, disseminating information, right? And influencing what? Societal norms and values. Let's talk about the roles and function. The first role and function would be what? The first one is called as information dissemination, right? When we talk about information dissemination, we can find out that media provides updates on current events, health, awareness, and also you can say that education and issue. Right. Let's talk about that. If you find out some example, so examples, so you would find out that campaigns about environmental conservation, or you can say that what vaccination drives, isn't it? Or you can say that what any kind of uh, tobacco prevention, right? So at the same time, it also shapes public opinions, isn't it? It shapes also public opinion through debates, or you can say that news and editorials, media influences how people perceive key issues, right? Let's say that if you take an example, reporting on climate change encourages citizens to adapt what? Adopt sustainable practices, right? Then the third one, which we call it, it's called as entertainment and culture. So in entertainment and culture also, we can say uh, it showcases the cultural diversity, right? And you can say that um, showcases cultural diversity, preserving traditions while introducing what? Introducing global trends. Right. Then the fourth one, empowering and advocacy or empowerment and advocacy. When we say that it highlights marginalized voices, advocating or supporting for social justice and equality. Right. Let's say that news stories on women's empowerment, or you can say minority rights. Right. So this is what you can say that media communication with society, which is nothing but spreading information, shaping public opinions, and entertainment and culture, empowerment and advocacy for the people, or maybe called it for the animals, isn't it? Similar to that, we also find out media communication, like we understand media communication with the society, media communication with the market or business. You can say that what the media acts as a channel, right? Channel for what? Channel for businesses to engage with what? Engage with the consumers, build brand awareness, and drive economic growth, right? At the same time, they also have the roles and function that it follows. It's called as advertising. So advertising, or you can say that market trends, and also consumer behavior, corporate social responsibility, and crisis management. So, what are the roles and function of advertising? Like you can say, advertising promotes products and services through targeted campaigns. Let's take the example: a social media um, campaign or social media ad campaign for a new smartphone release, isn't it? So that's again called as advertising. So, and how does it happen? A social media ad campaign. Right. Then second is called as a market trends and consumer behavior. When we say that market trends and consumer behavior, media reports and data analysis, um, you can say that inform businesses about what? About um, current market demands, right? So that's what. And how does it happen? Through the reports and data analysis. Let's take the example. You can say trends in eco-friendly products are highlighted what in business magazines. So that is what you would find out. So market trends and consumer behavior can be identified. So, and they also help in the business. So then the third one, which we call it called as a CSR, corporate social responsibility. So, and it showcases companies' community contribution and it enhances public trust. Like if you say that, let's take the example, media coverage of a company that fund or company funding school education for means those of the children who are mm, those of the children who are underprivileged and also poor, right? Poor. Even you also find out some of the means agencies who are donating some amount of money to the old age people or old age home, right? Then the fourth one is called as a crisis management, and crisis management helps business businesses address issues through press release, or you can say that what interviews, like a company that clarifies its stance during a product recall, right? So in that case, you find out these are the roles and function which are nothing but a media communication with the market. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Then the third one, which is called as a media communication with the government agencies. When we say that media communication with the government agency, it means media is the fourth pillar of democracy that we all know. and it facilitates transparency, accountability, and public engagement with the government agencies. So, and the role and function of it with government agency is what, or are what that called your policy awareness, right? Public feedback, public feedback, and accountability and transparency, emergency communication, and promoting national unity. So, so when we talk about policy awareness, we find out that it generally spreads information about new laws, new government schemes, and public services. Let's say that campaigns explaining tax reforms or voter registration, isn't it? So similar to that, in public feedback, also we find out acts as a platform for citizens to voice opinions about government policies. Let's here also you can find out the example called as a new segment featuring public reactions to a new budget. Then the third one, accountability and transparency. So generally, it investigates, or investigative journalism exposes what the kind of a corruption, inefficiencies, or malpractices that occur. Like you can say, a media report that uncovers financial irregularities in a public project. Generally, we find out. Then the fourth one, which we also called as emergency communication. So it plays a vital role, or you can say that important role during disasters by sharing real-time updates and instructions. Let's say that the examples you can say, or example, broadcasting evacuation plans, right? Broadcasting evacuation plans during floods or earthquakes, isn't it? Then the last one, which we call it promoting national unity. So when we say that promoting national unity, here you would find out media fosters a sense of shared identity by what? Emphasizing common goals and achievements. And it coverage, or you can say that the coverage of national sports events or Independence Day celebrations. So that also occur here, isn't it? So these are the roles and functions that generally help and you know facilitate help or facilitate transparency, accountability, and public engagement with government agencies. Okay, so these are known as a policy awareness, public feedback, accountability, and transparency, emergency communication, promoting national unity, right? So finally, we come to challenges in media communication. So that's obviously we know that there are some of the challenges in media communication, which is given here. As the first one is called as a bias and misinformation, right? And the second one is access gap, and the third one is censorship and control. When we talk about the bias and misinformation, it means we find out fake news, sensationalism that can mislead the public. Right. Second, when we talk about access gap, we also find out unequal access to media in rural or remote areas. So they don't find out, means they're able to access the uh, means media in the same manner that the people of urban areas able to, right? Then the third one, which is known as a censorship and control. In some of the areas, you would find out media may face what we can say that government restrictions and limiting freedom of expressions, isn't it? So in that case, you can find out these are the challenges that people generally, or mass of the people generally face different circumstances, isn't it? And finally, means so we find out that effective media communication that serves as a what, a vital link between society, the market, and government agencies, and it ensures what? It ensures, you can say that transparency, promotes public awareness, and trends what? Democracy, as we can understand that a technology changes, the role of media will expand further, isn't it? So, and at the same time, it enables more dynamic and interactive forms of engagement across these domains. So, those of the things you also find out some of the challenges, which also find out in the form of stockpiling, argumentative culture, good versus evil, collectivism, and news digit, art clutter, cherry picking, surveillance capitalism, isn't it? So many more are there, but these are not that necessary. So you simply just know about these are the things. Like when we talk about duck piling, is what a high volume of messages, targeted harassment for an infraction or opinion that the group doesn't agree with, isn't it? At the same time, when we talk about argumentative culture, that called as a default and adversarial approach, um, then good versus evil, a form of oversimplification that fits people in the news into villain victim hero frameworks or frames complex conflicts as good versus evil. So, slacktivism, what is that? Publicly supporting political or social causes, the low efforts of social media updates or online petitions, right? So, then news digit, what is that? Communities that are no longer served by dedicated local news media. Cherry picking, using incomplete or out of context supporting evidence, stories, studies, data points, while excluding opposing evidence. Similar to that, surveillance capitalism, it's nothing but called as the capture and monetization of personal data, right? So all these are challenges that generally media faces, and therefore, we can say that if you want to go for the effective media communication, so which serves as a important link between society, market, and government agencies, we generally expect what transparency, clarity, promotes public awareness, and strengthens the democracy, and in which we find out technology plays a very important role, and it changes the role of media, will expand further and enables more dynamic and interactive forms of engagement across these domains. Hope you understood all these things which have been discussed in this part. Well, I would also like to provide some questions, and I expect that you people will give the answer. Yet I'll also try to give those questions answer. Okay. Yeah. You can find out these are the questions which have been given your questions from the whatever the discussion we did in the unit one, right? And what do we expect? Like we expect that there will be a 2 marks question or 4 marks question, isn't it? And 6 marks questions, right? So those are the things. Let's see some of the questions and um, try to know all these questions answer, and remember that the answers have been also given after this. Uh, the first question, which is a stated define mass media in brief, right? Like we understood that mass media refers to what communication platforms that reach a larger audience simultaneously. We can talk about such as newspaper, television, radio, and the internet. So these are nothing but the examples which are indicating about mass media. Okay, then second question, which is asked here, is called as um, what is journalistic writing? So if you talk about journalistic writing, is a style of writing used in news reporting to deliver factual, concise, and clear information to the public, right? Then third question is called as a name two characteristics of a journalistic writing. You can say that characteristic like accuracy in reporting facts, and second is called as a conciseness and clarity in presenting information. Okay. Then fourth is called as a when did journalistic writing in English starts in India? If you say that journalistic writing in English started in India in the late 18th century with the publication of the mm, Bengal Gazette in 1780. isn't it? So then the fifth question, mention two examples of mass media. So we can say that television, newspapers are the two primary, or you can say examples of mass media. Then the sixth question, which is asked here, what is the primary purpose of media communication? If you say that the primary purpose of media communication is to inform, educate, and influence public opinion while providing a platform for dialogue, right? Seventh, which is stated that list two types of media communication. We can say that print media, newspapers, magazines, and digital media, websites, social media platforms, right? Then question number eight, what are the prospects of Indian English in mass media? If you say that Indian English has strong prospect in mass media due to its adaptability and growing audience, and ability to connect regional and global communication. It is widely used in newspapers, televisions, and digital platforms, making it an essential medium for reaching diverse audience in India and abroad. Okay, so these are the two marks questions which you can take it. Okay, let's move for the some four mark question also. Yeah. So the four marks question which have been given here. The first one, explain the significance of journalistic writing in mass media. So, if you say that, explain the importance of journalistic writing in mass media. So, we can say that journalistic writing is important in mass media. Why? Because it makes sure the spreading of accurate and relevant information to the public. It's concise and factual style builds trust and truthness of credibility, enabling you can say that mass media to inform, educate, and influence society effectively. And this type of writing also serves as what a tool for accountability, highlighting issues and driving public discourse on critical matters, isn't it? Second, it's called as a describe the evolution of journalistic writing in India during the British rule. Now, journalistic writing in English began in India with the Bengal Gazette in 1780. During British rule, English language newspapers served as platforms for both colonial administration and Indian reformers. Publications, you can say that, like the Hindu and the Times of India, became important for raising awareness on political and social issues. Revolution was marked by a transition from colonial narratives to nationalist movements as English became a tool for communication among diverse communities. Right. Then we find out the next question: what role does English play in the Indian mass media landscape? English plays a vital role in the Indian mass media landscape as it serves as a lingua franca, right, for a multinational language or multilingual nation. It connects regional divides and connects India to global audiences. English is the preferred medium in leading newspapers, television channels, and digital platforms, and ensuring access to international news and content. It also helps, you can say that, position India in the global media industry, highlights the connection between media communication and society. And media communication is deeply connected to society as it, you can say that what, acts as a mirror reflecting societal values, issues, and aspirations. Right? It informs and educates citizens, shaping public opinion and fostering dialogue. Media also, you can say that, amplifies the voices of marginalized groups and influences cultural trends, making it an integral part of social development and change. Right. So that's what English play in the Indian mass media landscape, as well as highlighting the connection between media communication and society. Both of the things that we would find out here. Five, if you say, how does the media act as a bridge between the government and the public? You can say that the media acts as a bridge by disseminating government policies, programs, and decisions to the public while simultaneously voicing public concerns and grievances to uh, policymakers. It plays a watchdog role in making sure transparency and accountability and facilitates dialogue during crisis or elections, and nurturing informed citizen participation in governance. Right. Then the sixth one, which is stated, explain the relationship between media and market dynamic in India. The media influences market dynamics by shaping consumer behavior, promoting brands, and providing platforms for advertisements. It also serves as a source of market intelligence, offering insights into economic trends. Conversely, the market drives media growth through funding and sponsorships, resulting in a symbiotic relationship where both entities mutually benefit. And the last one, which is stated, what are the key features of Indian English that that make it suitable for journalistic writing? So, if you say that adaptability is one key features, clarity is also another, and journalistic is another one, right? If you say that adaptability, Indian English incorporates regional words and phrases, making it relatable to diverse audiences. At the same time, it follows clarity, standardized grammar, and syntax, ensuring effective communication. Then conciseness, Indian English embraces, brevity, short, aligning with journalistic requirement, and inclusivity. It also connects cultural and linguistic gaps, appealing to both domestic and global readers. It also changes vocabulary. Indian English adopts modern and technical terms and keeping it relevant for contemporary journalism. So these are the, you can say that, answers of this 4 mark question. Okay. So, yeah. We'll go for the 6 marks question. And what do we find out here? It is stated about discuss the mm, history and growth, discuss the history and growth in journalistic writing in English in India. If you say that the history of journalistic writing in English in India began again saying with the Bengal Gazette published in 1780, which was India's first English newspaper during the colonial period, you find out that English newspapers were tools for British administrators and Indian reformers like Indian leaders such as Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who used uh, English journals like Sambat Kumudi, or to why to advocate for social reform. As nationalist movements gained momentum, English became a vehicle for political expression. With newspapers like the Hindu and the Times of India, that influences public opinion. So, post independence, English journalism expanded with the rise of television, radio, and digital platforms, making it important to or central to India's global media presence. Isn't it? So, those are the things that you would find out indicates about the history and growth of journalistic writing in English in India. Then, second, how does mass media influence society, markets, and government agencies in India? Now, if I say that mass media has a profound influence on society by shaping public opinion, spreading awareness, and promoting cultural values, it drives consumer behavior in markets through advertisements and influences what you can say that economic trends by providing timely information, um, right. So, for government agencies, mass media acts as a communication channel to spread policies and updates to citizens, accountable through investigative journalism, and fosters, you can say that, transparency in governance. So that's what you would find out. And the third one, which is called as a third question, which is called as analyze the role of Indian English in enhancing the reach of mass media in the country. Now, Indian English increases the reach of mass media by serving as a bridge language in a linguistically diverse nation. It makes sure accessibility to both regional and international audiences. Indian English newspapers, television channels, and digital platforms that actually fulfill to urban and educated populations, while um, you can say that incorporating local flavors to connect with the broader audiences, right? The adaptability of Indian English to include regional terms makes it relatable, while its standardized structures ensures credibility and professionalism in global markets, right? So then fourth, which is stated that uh, explain the impact of media communication to on cultural and social dynamics in India. Now, media communication influences cultural and social dynamics by shaping trends, preserving traditions, and nurturing dialogue on social issues. It promotes cultural exchange by showcasing regional art, festivals, and languages, therefore strengthening national identity. At the same time, you would also find out media challenges societal norms by addressing gender equality, caste discrimination, um, and what you find out that environmental issues through storytelling and visual narratives, it tries to nurture empathy and encourages social societal change. Right. Then the fifth one, which is stated, what are the prospects and challenges of using English as a medium for mass communication in India? Well, prospects and challenges of using English as a medium for mass communication in India. Prospects is what English connects or goes. English connects India to global audiences and helps participation in international media network. It serves as a common medium in a multilingual country, simplifying communication. English is the preferred language for technical and professional content and making sure credibility and reach. Right. Challenges English proficiency is limited to a fraction to the of the population, reducing accessibility in rural areas. Right. And regional languages often dominate local markets, necessitating bilingual approaches. Right. And over dependency on English may, alienate non-English speaking audience and leading to a cultural disconnects, isn't it? So let's move to the last question. Discuss how journalistic writing connects mass media with society and government. Well, journalistic writing acts as a conduit between mass media, society, and government agency by presenting what uh, unbiased, right, neutral information and raising awareness on critical issues. It reports on societal challenges and it amplifies public voices and highlights what government initiatives, right? Investigative journalism uncovers or reveals corruption and inefficiency that finds out in the web. Means you can say that fostering accountability, right? Additionally, you can say that journalistic writing uh, bridges or connects the gap between public concern and policy response, right, or responses, and that actually facilitates dialogue and informed decision. Okay, so these are the things that you would find out in a journalistic writing connection with mass media, with society and government agencies. So I hope I have given all these questions answer, even if I also mentioned those are the answers below that. Okay, so that's all. That's all about the first unit, which we discussed on writing for mass media. I hope you liked this video and understood the things which have been given here. We will meet in the next class and we will discuss the unit 2 of this particular course. Till then, bye bye. And before you leave, if you really like, then please like the button, share it, and subscribe it. Thank you. Subscribe among your friends. That's all.